If this picture doesn't make you want to watch the new Lord of the Flies series, just listen. All right, so I want to talk about this new Lord of the Flies series on Netflix because nobody is talking about it right now, and it is definitely one of the coolest things I've seen in a really, really long time, especially when it comes to adapting an old book that I think is pretty hard to adapt. Because, first of all, you have to think about the logistics of this thing, right? And I'm really interested to see the behind the scenes documentary that they made because you're dealing with remote locations, child actors. It's an entire cast of kids, right? All of them are under like 15. Everybody's like 13 and younger. So it's a difficult thing to do. As a fan of Lost, this show definitely scratched an itch for me in a few different ways. I think the way it was shot, the way that they utilized flashbacks, the way that all the characters kind of had their own unique, qualities that the show, found a way to exaggerate without making it feel super convoluted, I guess. And then from the get-go, the theme song is static. It's just a static like interference with the, you can hear the people in the plane that crashes at the beginning of the movie like calling in. That's the theme song of the show. So the performances of these actors are incredible, like incredible. And I think it'd be impossible for them to not be. You can't really play these characters without having some acting chops. But I especially got to shout out the kid that plays Piggy and the kid that plays Jack. Incredible acting. I mean, everybody is so, so good. And I think, again, it'd be hard to not lift your weight in an ensemble like this, even though it is an ensemble thing. Like, there's so many specific characteristics and things that you need to nail about their relationships and just how these people change, not to mention the other things that were helping out. The score of the show is incredible. It's like this weird contemporary classical mixed with like British church thing going on with the boys choir, because there's the boys choir that is involved in the plane crash, and so you have that music, and then you have this contemporary classical stuff, these instruments just kind of chasing each other all over the place. It is so, so well done. And again, as a fan of Lost, this show like really tapped into how to make unique sounds for such a unique story. You don't want to just do things that have been done before. You want to find a unique sound palette for these things. The sense of urgency and this like foreboding that's created. To me, the difference between this show and Lost is its children, right? So you're dealing with how children look at these things, how children would deal with animals in the forest, how children would deal with the beast that is supposedly in the forest that, by the time you see it, you're like, oh, that might not be a beast, but it might be something actually way, way worse. Direction was amazing. The cinematography, the colors were so, so beautiful. I mean, the show was just thought, through in such a full way that I think is like, I can't even describe how like respectful to the original story it felt, and how respectful to the tragedy and the sadness of the situation. There's a few great scenes where the kids talk about, this isn't what adults would do. You're not acting like adults. And it's like, of course they're not, because they're kids. Again, all these kids are like under 15, 16. And one of my favorite scenes was Jack is looking for some other materials to make arrowheads out of. He finds debris from the plane that crashed, and it's on the side of this cliff, and he's looking up the mountain, and he's like, how am I going to climb this? And he starts to scale it, and he starts to climb the rocks and go up. And there's a point where he stops, and you realize that he's not going to be able to make it. He goes, this is as far as I can go. I've got to come back down. And there's another kid that comes up to help him, and he goes, Jack, there's a foothold for your left foot. And Jack goes with his right foot to correct, and the kid goes, no, you're left. And you're reminded, these are kids that don't even know their left from their right. It's insane. So like dealing with all these things and all the aspects of the story, but it's also through this lens, and I think that they create that and respect that so, so well in this adaptation. There needs to be a huge shout out to the costuming department and the makeup department of this show. The way the kids, especially in like Jack's tribe, I thought it was so cool how they were repurposing like women's furs and stuff as like these like warrior hunter vests. It was so clever, and I one of my favorite set pieces that I'll try to get a picture of, but if I don't, you just got to watch the show. Is there's a kid or a few kids, I guess, that have these masks made of tree bark, and they just have these single eyelets cut out, and the shapes of the bark and the way it goes over their face, like they look like horsemen of the apocalypse. Like it is insane how scary they were able to make these kids look. There's also a really cool scene where Simon, who I also want to shout out, did an amazing job acting. He has his own episode, and he goes to steal his diary back from Jack, and when he does, there's this incredible shot of him just looming over Jack while he's sleeping, and the way that they made his eyes look and his face was just so uncanny. He looked like a monster. Like he looked like an actual monster. So I think it was the way of creating horror in this place where really there is no horror. It's just nature, right, that you're dealing with. But there's really no direct threat to them other than whether they can survive or not. So if anybody hasn't checked out this show, you gotta go watch it. If you have Netflix, go check it out. If you haven't read the book, read the book and then go watch it. Listen to the audiobook, whatever. It is truly so good and so creative, and takes a book that I thought would be really hard to adapt. It utilizes the mini series format in a really creative way with the 4 episodes, relating to each of the characters. It's a great show. Check it out. Lord of the Flies, Netflix, man. Shout out.